What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis, including the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, and daily news, including money, investing, and the stock market. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below right now, as it's completely free to do so. And this way you won't miss out on new videos, and also help us reach 400,000 subscribers. We're less than 200 subscribers away. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now. Like I said, it's completely free to do so. And also, thanks for hitting the like button for us down below. We got a lot to talk about here. We're going to talk about the new stimulus package, and we'll check this out. We'll start with this. Former President Barack Obama has announced that yesterday he has tested positive for the virus. That's right. He becomes just yet the next person to test positive, as now over 25% of Americans have now tested positive. Um, yeah, that's right. About 80 million people here in the United States have tested positive, and this does not even include the people that use the at-home tests. Because remember, if you take an at-home test and it shows that you're positive, only you and God and maybe your family members know about that. That doesn't get reported to anybody. And who knows how many millions of people have used those. Yeah, and not to mention, who knows how many people never even went and got tested at all and maybe, caught the virus. So who knows how many people really caught the virus at some point. Potentially even over 100 million people here in the U.S. And there's almost 1 million people that have died in the U.S. alone. Over 6 million have died worldwide. The former president says, "I just tested positive for the virus. I had a scratchy throat for a couple days, but am feeling fine otherwise." His wife, Michelle, and I are grateful to be vaccinated and boosted, and she has tested negative. It's a reminder to get vaccinated if you haven't already, even as cases go down. So, yeah, remember, people are still testing positive here, even today. Also, this week comes the dreaded Federal Reserve interest rate hike. That's right, interest rates are expected to go up starting this week. That means pretty much anything that you pay interest on will start going up this week unless you have a locked interest rate. What does that mean? Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve, is expected to raise interest rates by about 1/4%. So 1/4 of 1% this week. The reason they're doing that, it could be higher, but the reason they're doing that is to curb inflation. Now, raising interest rates 1/4 of 1% is not going to curb inflation very much, but they're expected to raise interest rates several times this year, anywhere from 3 to 7 times this year. I expect it to be anywhere from 3 to 4 times this year. At probably 3 to 4 times of 1/4% each time. It's probably the most likely scenario. Okay. So that means by the end of this year, they could raise interest rates a full 1%. But the interest rates they're talking about are near zero. In fact, some interest rates are actually at zero. There's several different interest rates, but some are actually at zero when they talk about bank-to-bank interest rate lending. And if you actually if you go back a few months ago, you could have actually got home mortgages for as low as 2.99% for some home mortgages. Like if you got a 5/1 ARM or a 3/1 ARM, which locked in your mortgage for 3 years or 5 years, it locked in the rate for say 5 years, and then it could adjust every 5 years. You could get a 2.99%. If you went to get like a 30-year mortgage where it locked in the rate, and you would pay it off, it would lock in the rate, fully, and you would pay it off over 30 years, which is probably the most common. You could get a rate somewhere in the threes, 3%, 3.5%, maybe 3.99% if you had pretty good credit. But now it's starting to go up. It's probably already in the fours, even before they have announced the interest rate hike, because, well, banks already predicted this, just like gas. Gas went up just on the price of gasoline went up just on the thought of Russia invading Ukraine. Even before they invaded Ukraine, just on the fear that they were going to invade Ukraine, gas started to go up. And then when they actually invaded Ukraine, gas went up even more. Same thing with interest rates. Okay. So now they're going to finally raise interest rates probably a quarter of 1%, but interest rates have already basically gone up in the real world. In the real world. Okay. Um, but so what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, interest rates on your credit cards are going to start creeping up a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. They've probably already started to creep up a little bit. Interest rates, if you go to get a home mortgage, if you're not already locked into one, will start to creep up a little bit. Interest rates on anything you pay for, that if you're not locked into a something, will start to creep up. However, home mortgage rates and interest rates on anything are still near historic lows. Historic lows. Like I said, you could probably still get a home loan in the 4-ish percents, and if you've owned a home for a long time, or if you've been around for a long time, you know that that's still way cheaper than they used to be when interest rates were 7%, 8%, 10%, 15%. If you go way back in the day. So, and again, if you've had a home for 10 years and you haven't refinanced in 10 years, your mortgage is probably way more than that. And you probably should still refinance, because if you go from 7% to 4%, you'll save thousands of dollars probably per year. Per year. And nowadays they have refinancing where you can just pay no closing costs, and they'll just like hike your interest rate 0.5%, or roll your closing costs. They have all sorts of different options. You could roll your closing costs into the mortgage. You pay a couple $1,000s, but if you're saving a couple $1,000s every year, it's a no-brainer. Or they'll just bump your rate 0.5%. So instead of getting a 4% rate, you'll get a 4.5% rate. But if you're coming from a 7.5% rate to a 4.5% rate, again, it's a no-brainer. But remember, they're going to start raising interest rates several times now, because this is like economics 101 when it comes to Fed policy. When inflation starts to get out of control, the number one tool to bring inflation down is to raise interest rates. In fact, it could be much, much worse. As you can see here, Russia, who's just suffering economic pain like you would not ever want to feel for a country. Russia had to more than double their interest rates from 9.5%. Remember, our home mortgages here are around 4% now. Again, it's just depending on what type and what your credit is and stuff. They had to take their interest rates from 9.5% to 20%. To 20%. So that'd be like buying a home on a credit card. So imagine what their credit card interest rates are. Oh, and by the way, you can't even use a credit card in Russia anymore. American Express, MasterCard, and Visa literally stopped doing business in all of Russia. So unless you have a Chinese credit card, which I don't know how many Russians have Chinese credit cards in Russia, and also Apple Pay and Google Pay, all completely shut off in Russia. And PayPal's shut off in Russia now. And eBay's shut off in Russia now. Even McDonald's and Starbucks are shut off in Russia now. So they're just in a world of hurt now. But anyways, so Russia, because their money is literally collapsing, and inflation as well, they kind of did it because their dollar's collapsing, but it's the same premise. They doubled their interest rates. They didn't raise it 0.25%. They doubled it. And they were already at 9.5%, just to show you how bad economically they were even before the war started. So we're going to see some interest rates hikes this year here in the U.S., and could even go on to next year. depending on how bad this is. And a lot of that depends on the war as well. Um, and this kind of, when we go back here a month or two ago, there's a lot of people that said, "Oh, Russia won't invade Ukraine. That's all hype. That's not going to happen. That's fear mongering." Fast forward a month now. Look at where we are now. Now it's more like, how do we get this to stop? Will Putin ever stop? The guy's a madman, right? Uh, you kind of rewind a month ago, and a lot of people were seriously wrong about that. I remember a lot of people saying, "Oh, yeah, that's never going to happen." Yeah. So now it's kind of like, how do we prevent World War III from happening? Now there's like legitimate fears of that actually happening, because I mean, Russia is literally a major nuclear power. Now, if Russia didn't have nukes, this would probably already be over. I mean, we would have had other countries just literally probably move in there and just put an end to this. But because they have nukes, it makes this a much more delicate situation. You know, but we're going to be raising interest rates here this year, and the longer that war goes on, that affects us here at home and affects the world with the whole gas and oil situation worldwide. We've felt that here already. We've seen the price of the pump go sky high. Now, here's what's interesting. If you've been watching my show, you know that the price of oil has stabilized. It's actually coming down a little bit even more. Even more. And we know what this does to the price of gas. We know it takes some time. We've been watching that here as well. But the price of oil coming down even more. Remember that the price of Brent actually peaked at 139. It's down yet again, down to 107. 107, and WTI down to 103. Significant. I mean, look at how far down it's come from the highs. Um, so yeah, it's actually pretty astounding how much it's come down here. Um, and natural gas, heating oil, everything's down. It's actually pretty surprising to even see this down. Hey, let's knock on some wood here and cross our fingers and cross our toes that this continues to see this trend. I'm actually surprised that it's even doing this with the war still going the way it is. It's not like it's like Putin stopping or anything, but we'll take a short-term win. We'll take it. Now, gas prices have stabilized, have stabilized. They haven't really started to come down yet. Remember, they've only come down like a penny, but at least they've stopped going up. Now, they should start coming down because we've seen the price of oil start coming down, but they've at least stopped going up. Okay. And again, we've kind of seen this here. We know that the price of gas here has for several days now been at 432. It actually was at 433 national average. Of course, we know that your state, your county, your city might vary, might be a little higher, a little bit lower. We know in California it's really high, and in some places we've seen those signs that are actually 695 at one or two gas stations, which is just insane. But you know, I can't even imagine that, right? Um, but I guess we'll have to at least take a minor, very very minor set of good news here that this has come down 100 a barrel. Round 103, 107 is a lot better than 130s. 130s. It doesn't feel like that long ago that I was reporting to you that this was in the 130s or around 130s. So um, hopefully this starts to go down here. You can see here Democrats unveil plan. There's an actual bill to issue quarterly checks to Americans by taxing oil companies posting huge profits. And this is the exact scenario what we're talking about, that the price of oil comes down, but the price of gas doesn't come down for weeks or days and days and days later, and we're sitting here and the price of oil is down, down, down. I mean, we're down to, near $100 a barrel. And here we are with gas still at record highs. I mean, the record high ever, the highest price it's ever been, was 4.33, 1 penny higher just a few days ago. And diesel at 5.13 just the other day as well. And at 4.33 at on 3.11, and here it's sitting here at 4.32 and a half. But yet oil is at 103 and 107, and this peaked at 139 the other day. Look at how much lower this is than 139 a barrel. It's at 107 and 103. I mean, that's like, I don't know, what is that, 30% lower? 28% lower? I mean, you could do the mental math here or something, whatever it is. But that's why these Democrats are unveiling these bills to issue quarterly checks to tax these oil companies on their massive billions and billions of dollars of profit that they're gouging Americans on, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're gouging these Americans because when the price of oil comes down, the price of gas is not coming down for days or weeks later. So they're really just gouging the Americans and keeping this money. Another thing Congress is trying to do, which could actually end up in the next stimulus package, a proposal to suspend the federal gas tax is gaining political momentum among Senate Democrats who are worried that high gas prices will hurt them in the midterm elections. The measure, sponsored by Senator Mark Kelly, a Democrat from Arizona, and Maggie Hassan, a Democrat from New Hampshire, who both face competitive reelection races, would suspend the federal gas tax of 18.4 cents per gallon until January. And again, remember, there's a lot of states doing this as well. And states' gas tax can be anywhere from 30 to 50 cents or more as well. You combine that with the federal gas tax being paused, and you're looking at savings of 50 to 70 cents. 50 to 70 cents per gallon savings can really add up. Really add up. Anxious Democrat senators say the rising price of gas, accelerated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has become a domestic crisis. They are scrambling for ideas to keep mounting costs in check and discussed suspending the gas tax this past week. There are a lot of steps that we considered or are moving forward on that we have not considered before. That's the nature of the crisis we're in. There's no question that prices are very high for gasoline and food. We've got to consider measures that directly help families, they said. This is from Senator Bob Casey, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania. There's also a lot of governors that have already moved to suspend state gas tax, including Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan is working with Democrats in the state legislature to adopt a 1-month emergency suspension of the state's gas tax. It would cut the cost of gas by 36 cents a gallon in Maryland. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, has floated the idea to rebate or floated a rebate to help drivers pay for gasoline prices. A gallon of regular in California averages $5.72 a gallon. Yeah, California is the highest. Democrat senator from Wisconsin said this should be an option also. I want to do everything I can to reduce the pain that Wisconsinites are feeling. We have multiple strategies to lower gas prices. I recently signed on to a measure to up our biofuel production. And frankly, our excess biofuel capacity is almost the same of what will be cut off from Russia. However, suspending the federal gas tax is getting pushback from some Democratic senators worried about cutting off a key source of funding for roads and bridges. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has warned that it would be very difficult to write a bill to ensure that consumers themselves see the savings from a suspension of the gas tax. She says there is no guarantee that oil companies pass the reduction on to the consumer. It's very hard to write a bill that requires them to pass it on to the consumer. I'm surprised at that. I wouldn't think that the oil companies would that the tax I would think that that would be at the gas pumps. She says if we have a holiday that guarantees the consumer benefits rather than more profits for the oil companies, that would be a path we can take. That's why the gasoline stimulus checks or vouchers or just straight up stimulus checks directly to the people, like stimulus check one, stimulus check two, and stimulus check three, or these gasoline stimulus checks, just sending money directly to the people, is honestly a much better way to curb inflation. Putting money in the people's pockets is always a better way than coming up with these other kind of, you know, gimmicky ideas, because who's kidding who? You put money in people's pockets, it's so much easier, right? So much faster. But nonetheless, as you can see, they're literally talking about this stuff, proposing this stuff. It's an election year, and we have a lot of governors doing this stuff here as well. States, cities, and counties are actually issuing stimulus checks. They're suspending the gas tax, whether that's a good way to do it or not. States are actually doing that. So remember, states can be 30 to 50 cents, or even some states are actually a little bit more than 50 cents per gallon. So that can really add up. Either way, it saves you money. It does actually put more money in your pockets when you're saving your money that way. Every time you fill up, or some are doing grocery tax savings, all sorts of different things here. If you've been watching my channel, pretty much every state, one by one, is doing things like that or reducing state taxes. Some states are actually reducing or eliminating taxes for seniors. A whole bunch of different things here in 2022. So I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here on a daily basis. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below right now so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember those times and tune in at those times so you don't miss out on new videos. Remember, subscribing is completely free to do so. So click subscribe right now if you haven't yet, and help us reach 400,000 subscribers. We're almost there. You can click here to watch my newest video next, and you can click here to see more details on the potential $3,600 per year, $300 per month anti-inflation stimulus checks. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.